Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to talk about simple phone sales or selling over the curb. I am joined, as you see, this is not Mike Hagee, or, but this is Garrett. He's a new service advisor for Mike, and so he's joining as well. And so if we have any questions or concerns as we're going along, just go ahead and ask those. And Garrett, you look amazing. No need to fix your hair.
Got the hat hat. Still cool over this way.
Right? So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and roll through this. The most important thing for me with phone sales is to just keep it very simple. So, you see, simple is the very first word when I name this course. Yes, selling over the curb is really what it is, but just keeping everything simple. And I'm going to go over the basics and I'll go through this in a very high level, but understand that I've been through trainings for 20 years I don't know that I can legally name all the outfits, but I guess because I paid the money, everything from Ivy League universities, clear on down through Franklin Covey and Mahan Khalsa, some of those other classes and courses that I've taken. And so this isn't just Sam making up all this stuff. Some of it I spent a lot of money for, and some of it is psychology, and some of it is a culmination of experience. I'm not fooling anybody. I'm 50 years old, so I've been in sales for 30 years, and just actually a little bit more, 31 years. And so even anybody that owns a company, Mike that I was just talking to owns a company. He's in sales, and that's sales when you strip all that down. So sales is just helping someone else to see your viewpoint, and so I just keep it very simple. So if some of this feels unnatural, then I'm talking about the process, and you need to work this process into where it feels natural for you, because that's the only way that it's going to stick. I've been to some sales programs that did not feel natural and they did not use vernacular that I would use. And so it was uncomfortable and it sounded canned and it didn't work. But you want to take this, make it your own, and stick to a process. The time you fail in sales is when you fail to stick to a process. And so just over the phone, this is a very simple process that you're going to, and you see that I left all these slides up here. It's not death by PowerPoint. It won't take us long to get through it, but I'm just going to break this down. There are five main things that the customer really wants. That's why they're calling. I've had a number of clients say, "Oh, they just wanted a price." That is not just what they wanted. That may be what they asked for, but they're looking for education. And we'll get back to price in just a minute. That is something that does need to be talked about. But they want to make an educated decision. And you see this girl smiling. You're going to say, not everybody that's calling the shop is smiling. That's true, but she should be by the end of the call. So they are looking for education. They want to make sure that they're making a good choice. And so they're also looking for communication. In over the last about 10 years, we've seen an uptick of people that are screaming on the phone or being really mean. Some people have seen this in their own shops. We had a shop owner 2 months ago that his service advisor was hit when somebody threw a blunt object at them. And I'm not trying to scare everyone. I'm just trying to tell everyone that some people are just, they're irate. They are one of the reasons that that happens is because they don't feel like they're being heard. They don't feel like they're truly communicating, and so they're frustrated. And so they want to feel like they're communicating with you. So if they say something, don't just glance over it, but respond to it and make them feel heard. This is a really big deal right now in the world. People just don't feel heard. Okay, the next one, assurance, they are making the right choice. I don't know if anyone on this call has ever been to a restaurant where you say, "I'll have the New York strip," and the waiter goes, "That is a great choice." And then you say, "Okay, I'll have the sweet potato fries." That is also a great choice. One of my favorites, sir. That is, and I've heard this many times, to where that is the difference between a good restaurant and a great restaurant, is that they assure you you've made a great choice. Sure enough, when that New York strip gets there, you taste it and you're like, "Oh, yep, this was definitely the right choice." And so they want an assurance that they're making the right choice. So just be aware of that. And then they're looking for a fast repair. They want to get back on the road. They don't want to spend their entire week getting this vehicle done. They just want it in and out as fast as they can. They're looking at this as an inconvenience. And I'm not listing these in particular as to what is most relevant to each customer because each one of them sees things in a different order. And then value, you see the price is nowhere on this list. Price is what they're looking for if they don't know how to tell you from the other shop. They don't have a differentiator. Price is their differentiator they're looking for. So if you help them make their decision based on other facts, then price becomes smaller in the equation. But value is what am I getting for my money or my time? Value is it's a trade proposition. So you are helping them to make the right choice based on the fact that they're going to get something better than price. If they called about price, we'll talk about that in a minute. But you want to help them to understand that they're being educated, that there's communication involved, that it's a two-way street, and you're assuring them that they're making a good decision, that they're getting fast repairs, and that they are also getting bang for their buck. They're getting good value. So you see that I've made everything super simple. A lot of sales trainers. I'm not a sales trainer, by the way. I'm not going to charge you for a sales training course, but they give you so many hoops to jump through by the end of the class. You're like, this is so overwhelming. You go home and nothing happens. And so I just break it down very simply. I try my very best not to give pricing over the phone. This is not only in your business, but my business as well. I try not to give them price before they understand what I truly offer. And the majority of our clients, like Mike's Auto that is on here, they do a better job than most shops. They offer a better warranty. They have a quicker turnaround time. They give better service. If somebody brings something back, they don't have a stated customer satisfaction guarantee, but they do. They will literally go through and make sure that that customer is satisfied before they leave. And so it's not a written guarantee. It is just something that they do because they're a great shop. And so they don't typically need to give pricing over the phone. They need to talk about that value proposition. And so if someone calls up about price, I'm just going over this again, they're not necessarily just looking for price. They're not just a price shopper. They're looking for ways to differentiate you against their competition. Does that make sense, everyone? Thumbs up if it's all making sense. Okay, cool. Okay. I go through recent phone calls. We had one this last week. I could play this, but the customer had a check engine light. And for us in the marketing industry for automotive, this is a great call. And so most shop owners say, I want broke vehicles. And this is a broke vehicle call. And she calls up, hey, I have this check engine light. The service advisor, I'm not going to make you listen to this, but the service advisor literally talks her out of bringing the vehicle in. He says, okay, we have a diag fee of $180. Does that work for you? And she didn't even know what a diag was. And so he had to stop and go rewind, tell her what a diag is. And then she led the entire call. She said, well, when would you be able to look at it? And he said, well, we might be able to get you in tomorrow. And he gave her enough reasons not to come in that she didn't. And she was just calling someone else. And if I know that callers, they say buyers are liars. If the caller says, I'll call back, they're probably not going to. And they're probably going to have the work done somewhere else. I just want to let everyone know that they're going to have that work done, even if they decline that over the phone. But we need to give them actual reasons. I don't like to spend time on these negative things. This would drop your jaws. But I like to spend my time on, well, what can we do right? Because I'm not harping on anyone today. So oil change prices is the number one phone call that came in this week. And some of the shops, I do a lot of competitive shop calls as well. Some shops, they will just say what their typical price is, and they won't go into it, which is fine. But they'll pick it up and say, hey, this is Clark's. And well, what's your price for an oil change? And they'll say $39.95. And that is it. It doesn't say if it's a semi, if it's a blend, if it's a full synthetic, if they're topping off fluids, anything like that. So you really don't know what they're offering for that oil change price. And they're actually conditioning the public to only operate on price. They're teaching people to just call up and ask for price because they're communicating to that customer. That's all that's important is the price, because they just straight up answered that question. That's all that's important to you is the price. This is what I recommend. I would say something to the effect of absolutely, we offer a synthetic blend oil change service for X, and that could be your $39.97, your irresistible offer or whatnot, or full synthetic for $59.97. Both include up to 6 quarts of oil, replacement of your oil filter, no rent inspection. If your shop tops off fluids, it's important to mention that as well. And if you're checking tire pressures, those other types of things, you want to mention that as well. And you can also say something to the effect of, hey, we're throwing in a free tire rotation this month. And then we get in here, we could get you in it too. Does that work for you? You've given them enough information to where they're seeing a value and they're able to make an educated decision. It's not just about price. And I'm not going to say that it's never just about price, because you have somebody that their car's on their last leg and it's about to blow up and stuff. I get that. And you're going to get a few of those people, but the law of numbers says that it's not always about price. Okay, so any other differentiators that you do as a company? I know that we have one client that their slogan is, we service cars and we service customers. And so they take care of people. And so if you do something like that, help them to understand what the difference is. The second number one call, we did 4 calls. The second biggest one was the transmission's not shifting this week. And so this one is a big ticket item for most shops. And some people say, why is transmission repair on my Google ads? It's because it's not always the transmission. Some people say, well, my transmission is a problem. Well, that is a customer diagnostic, not a trained technician diagnostic. Sometimes it's not the transmission that is the problem. And sometimes you are going to do an R&R job to where you pull the unit out, send it off to a transmission shop, they rebuild it, and then you'll put it back in, and it'll just be a bench unit. And so this can be very profitable for you. But when we get these people that are calling in and saying, my transmission is not shifting, we're going to go through this process. Here's the exact process that I go through. And I've done this for clients where I've answered the phone for them. So yes, I do have experience in this as well. But I say, I'm sorry to hear that. And guess what? I also say that when people call up and say, my shop is struggling, can you help me? Because I'm a compassionate human being and you are too. So I'm sorry to hear that. Not to worry, that can be something as simple as a worn shifter cable, which that actually can be. I had an F-150 that was the case actually. And we could take a look at it too. Does that work for you? And so it is that simple. You've gone through these things. As long as you go through this process, that is a very simple process. And they can say at that point, can you give me a price? And you're like, I don't really know what to price on that. If it's simple as a shifter cable, then that's what I need to price, not a full transmission rebuild. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And it does. And so it gives them hope, and it checks off all these boxes that we had previously. You're educating them on it, that there's a possibility. You're hearing, you're communicating, you're assuring them that they're making the right choice, because it could be something simple. Because I'm not going to tell you the names of the transmission shops. One of them starts with an A and ends with an AMCO. But they will say they will not give them a price over the phone, but they'll say, once we get it in here, then we'll be able to tell you what it is. And that particular company's mantra is for somebody to bring their vehicle in, and then they'll say, okay, we test drove it, still can't tell what it is. We won't know until we open it up. And at that point, possession is 9/10 of the law, and they're selling them a new trans. So at any rate, understand that that's the case with your competition. You need to know what your processes are for your competition, because if this customer that is called up about the transmission, if they are not sold by the time that they get done with the call, or you can certainly tell them, hey, I just want you to know, when you call another shop, if they want to open that up before they can tell you what's wrong with it, and then you're going to have your transmission rebuilt. Just letting them know, because it's your job to take care of them. So any questions yet? Okay, this, by the way, is the number one most difficult call to convert when they're actually calling with with a repair that needs to be done. So pretty simple. Okay. All right. So awesome. Check engine light. I'm sorry to hear that. That must be frustrating. Whatever your terminology is that you use naturally, that's what needs to come out of your mouth. I'm a Texan. I'm sorry to hear that, is how it comes out of my mouth. And if you have a different mantra up in Canada or whatnot, if you're like Sam, they don't say I'm sorry to hear that, then use whatever vernacular that they use in your area. Not to worry, that can be something as simple as a loose gas cap. That is very accurate. That can be simple. It can be something else, but you don't know. So please try not to give them a diag price over the phone unless they are really ribbing you for it. But I would certainly say not to worry. That can be something as simple as a loose gas cap. We could take a look at it too. Does that work for you? This checks all the boxes for them. Okay, our last one, AC is not blowing cold. We have two shops that have asked us to turn off their Google Ads because they are so backed up on work right now from their AC's not blowing cold. This is a big deal right now. In Florida, they're already not blowing cold. Texas, same thing across the southern United States. They aren't blowing cold. This one is different depending on the season. And I want to just bring that out. Yes, it's a comfort thing, but it's also a safety thing if it's in the wintertime, because then your defroster is not working correctly. And so I wanted to train you on both how to deal with, my heater is not working because that is a safety issue. This is just comfort. Well, in general, in Florida, once it's above 103 degrees with 100% humidity, then it's a safety issue. But until then, it's comfort. But, oh no, we can't have you driving around in a hot car. That shows compassion. And they're like, yes, someone finally understands. My husband wasn't listening to me. All of a sudden, you're the only man in her life that listens to her, or vice versa. But this is a golden response. Oh no, we can't have you driving around in a hot car. And the client is like, you're absolutely right. I can't drive around in a hot car. This is also setting it up so that if you're not just finding a leak, doing it, or you're actually having to swap out a core or anything like that, a compressor, then they already have decided that they're not going to drive around in a hot car. They're going to get it fixed. And so this is setting you up for success later. Not to worry, that's usually a quick fix. And you can explain this to them later, but if they ask, how could this be a quick fix? Well, if it's just low on coolant, we'll do a test, find out where the leak is, get it taken care of, and then that can be a faster fix. So, and then can we look at it at 2? Does that work for you? It is that simple, but like I say, this can be a safety issue. And I saved this for very last because if this is a safety issue, you can't morally let them off the phone without finding some sort of a resolution. If they're calling for brakes and say you do end up quoting brakes over the phone, and it doesn't kind of feel like they're going to get it taken care of, say, we're happy to get you in here as quickly as possible because we want you to be safe. This is a safety issue and we know it's serious. See how we use the word we know it's serious. And so all of a sudden they're on the serious team. They know it's serious. They need to get it taken care of. And it builds urgency. If their heater core is out, then their defroster is not going to work. And that really is a safety concern when they can't get heat in their vehicle or they can't see properly in the wintertime. And like I say, people can die in their car if it's too hot. But they are usually using the I'm dating myself now, the 2x65 air conditioning. That means you have both of your windows down, going 65 miles an hour. So just for any of you younger folks, I had to translate my older vernacular. But this, if it's ever a safety issue, please bring it to their attention to where it's not just a pricing issue. And I'm going to also address callbacks. If you ended up doing a callback on somebody that was looking for brakes or something that is a safety issue, say, hey, we'd like to offer you 10% off to bring your vehicle in. We know this is a safety issue and your safety shouldn't have a price tag on it. That is a great way to bring people back in. So I'm going to go ahead and close. Thank you so much for tuning in.